Namaste and welcome back to today's episode of Mahabharata Matters. In the previous episode, we saw that Arjuna reunited with his family. Upon Indra's advice, the Pandavas, Draupadi and Kulaguru Dhaumya started traveling towards Kamakyavana. Lomasha, who was their travel guide so far, went back with Indra to Amaravati. While they were traveling on their way back, in one of the forests, Bhima had gone out to get food. At that time, he was suddenly caught by his feet by a huge python. Even before Bhima could react, he was in the tight grip of the python. With all his might he tried, but he could not get himself released. This surprised Bhima. It was very unlikely for him to not be able to use his strength. He instantly knew this was no ordinary python. Instead of resisting, he stopped and asked the python who he was, because he did not seem like any ordinary python. The python started narrating his story. He was King Nahuṣa, who after passing away had gone to heaven. He had been cursed by sage Agastya for his arrogance. It was also said that he would be released from his curse when he has the strongest man in the world in his grip, and his brother would answer all his questions about ethics and conduct. And ever since, Nahuṣa had been living in this forest as a python. By then, Yudhishthira was concerned for Bhima. He came looking for him as he had gone away for a very long time. He was surprised to see the very strong Bhima in the grip of a python. He asked Bhima what the matter was and why he was not fighting the python. The whole story was narrated to him too. Instantly, Yudhishthira said he would gladly answer the questions for the python if he would release his brother. The python started asking many questions about code of conduct, dharma, Vedanta, etc. etc. One of the questions Nahuṣa asked was, what is supreme knowledge? Yudhishthira answered. He said, knowing Brahman is the ultimate knowledge. He also said, he who knows this knowledge treats happiness and sorrow equally. Nahuṣa was happy with all the answers. Yudhishthira had answered all his questions very satisfactorily. Not only had he answered satisfactorily, Yudhishthira was very pleasant in his demeanor too. Yudhishthira did not claim his answers. He humbly said, to my best knowledge, this answer suits best to your question, so on and so forth. Yudhishthira's demeanor was extremely delightful and humble too. Along with getting his questions answered, Nahuṣa immediately remembered why he got cursed. Along with the answers to his questions, Nahuṣa also understood what he lacked when Agastya had cursed him. He was very arrogant and he had kicked the sage with his feet. Now, by looking at Yudhishthira, he also understood what humility is. The moment he understood this, Bhima was dropped by the python's grip and the python had become Nahuṣa. Yudhishthira and Bhima prostrated to him as he was one of their ancestors. He blessed them both and left for his abode. Bhima and Yudhishthira came back to join the rest of the Pandavas, Draupadi and Kulaguru Dhaumya. So what are our takeaways from the story? It is said, humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. Yes, it is not thinking less of ourselves, which means belittling ourselves, but it is thinking about ourselves a little less. Whether the other person is superior or inferior to oneself in any aspect, it is immaterial. Thinking about where the other person is coming from, being respectful of their opinion, and also obliging to their ideas is what makes a person humble. Yudhishthira was exactly that. Another thing we observe is that showing feet to elders is a big no-no. In his arrogance, Nahuṣa had kicked sage Agastya. We are taught to be respectful to elders. Showing feet to them is the biggest papam one can do. So being respectful is mandatory. Yudhishthira had answered that one who knows Brahman is equanimous, both in happiness and in sorrow. What does this mean? It is said, adhukkam asukham samam. Is adhukkam not sukham? Is asukham not dukkham? Not really. When I am not in sorrow does not necessarily have to mean I am happy. When I am not happy does not necessarily mean I am in sorrow. There is a neutral position too. That neutral position is called equanimity, and a person who knows Brahman is a sthita prajna and he is always equanimous. That's what Yudhishthira had said. With these thoughts, we come to the end of today's episode. Remember, in this series, we are discussing matters of Mahabharata because even today, Mahabharata matters. Hari Om!